I think the likelihood of it happening exactly as the government envisions and plans it out is unlikely. Yes, it's not. I don't think vast overreaching government plans like this really ever work out so effectively. I think the incompetence of the federal government is not to be underestimated. But on the other hand, you have the American people, who I think are a far more docile bunch than ever they have been in the history of this country. The American people just pretty much do what they're told, from what I can tell. So it may be that the establishment of a totalitarian system in this country would not require so much main force, that it could be done somewhat more gently. Mm-hmm. Indeed, look at the last 8 years. It's been usurpation after usurpation of various rights, and people just keep on going to Disneyland and, jerking off in front of televisions. Hey.
Yeah. Well, and it looks like we're at least facing the possibility of a major financial crisis here. I was just reading an article the other day about how all the banks are lending themselves money in order to cover their losses by turning their old debt into new debt and whatever, just, pushing the boulder a little further uphill, but it's going to come back down again. They're just mirrors and wires and smoke and all those kinds of great things are good for a magician or whatever, but at the end of the day, the laws of physics still count for something.
Yeah, the American economy is in deep trouble. I think American society is in deep trouble. I'm working on a book right now. It's called The United States Must End. And the subhead is The Case for Secession from a Country Grown Too Big for Democracy. And it's about the secessionists of Vermont. And basically how, these giantist systems in the United States, whether it be corporate or governmental or institutional on all levels, are failing. They're failing massively. And they are threatening the actual foundations of democracy. And it may be that the United States is going to have to go through some sort of real crisis and transformative moment. The kind of thing that Chalmers Johnson talks about in his Blowback trilogy. I mean, he in a Harper's article he published, I think last year, last year, he talks about how, bankruptcy, that the United States is heading probably inevitably for fiscal bankruptcy due to military overreach, due to military overstretch, and that, in fact, the U.S. economy is in a suicide-pact with the military-industrial complex. And, he writes at the end of this essay that, the end of the United States does not necessarily mean the end of, the United States. It'll just be a change, and it could be a change for the better, it could be a change for the worse. So who knows? I think we're in trouble. I mean, I think our economy is a hallucinated economy. Our energy, our infrastructure is hallucinated. I mean, if you look, for example, at I spend a lot of time in the Southwest, and so you go down I drive down from Utah to a hellhole like Phoenix or Las Vegas. These places can't last. They'll be gone in 100 years. The water will run out. The oil will run out. People won't be able to drive the vast distances that they do today to get around. It's just, it's a joke in many ways. It's like a tragic joke that the United States has become.
Well, Richard Mayberry has pointed out, too, he's a guy who, like me, is in favor of return of the Articles of Confederation. And he says, hey, look at France. France is, they're on, the Fifth Republic now or whatever. They've had all different governments, but France is always still France. In fact, that's where you are right now, is in Paris, right?
That's right.
Right,
That's right.
And Paris is still Paris, and the wheat still grows in the wheat fields out in the country out there, and everything's fine. We could still be the USA. We'd just be under the Articles of Confederation and undo Hamilton's coup that's caused us so much trouble all this time.
Absolutely. Listen, yes, that's right. Now, the Fifth Republic, they are on their Fifth Republic, and I can tell you, I am right now in a suburb of Paris, and it is a beautiful place, and the French know how to live beautifully. That is, they live within their means, and they have a good sense of commonweal and a good sense of being good neighbors.
Instead of, here we are talking about worries about them suspending the Constitution, maybe we need to just repeal it.
Well, I kind of like the Constitution. I think the Constitution is an amazing document, and it's done pretty well until the development of our standing army. I think the Constitution has been an incredible engine of democracy. But maybe we should just divide the country up into smaller units so it's more manageable. I mean, when you consider you got these 435, representatives in the House and another 100 or so in the Senate, and these guys represent a country of 320 million people. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just crazy.
It sounds like what you want is to repeal the Constitution and go back to the Articles of Confederation, no?
Well, I mean, as long as we retain the best elements in the Constitution, sure.
Yeah. Well, I like the Bill of Rights, but the states all have Bills of Rights anyway.
Sure.
And I don't think there's anything else good in there except the Bill of Rights, is there?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, you're right.
I like a little bit of Article 1, Section 9, but that's just restrictions on the power they just created. So I'm with you. I guess basically maybe it takes the specter of complete authoritarianism to get people thinking along the opposite lines, radical Jeffersonian decentralism and individual liberty.
Yeah, or crisis. I think crisis is where it's at. I mean, taking the example of France, their gasoline here is equivalent to $12 a gallon. Now, they've developed an incredibly complex and efficient public transportation system and an incredibly complex and efficient goods transport system via rail. So life doesn't come to a halt at $12 a gallon gasoline. They're doing just fine. What we need to do is in the United States to start adapting to the, I know, and we're way off topic here, but I think there's a way to get back to it, back to that Radar article. But so if in the United States we start to make these adaptations, then I think we'll be okay. But the thing about it is we have a government that is completely whored out to interests that don't want any of these changes because there's not that much money to be made in it, because the status quo is so profitable. So in the same way, we have this centralized, this calcified, national security system that gives us things like Maine Core. I think there's something sort of almost dinosaur-like about Maine Core in many ways, and about these massive surveillance systems. They're kind of it feels like that there's not really much news in this, that the U.S. government has been doing this for a long time. They did it during the Cold War. They expanded these powers massively until the Church Commission came in and reined it in and tried to shut down the runaway powers of the executive branch and the runaway powers of the intelligence agencies. Well, what we need to do today is, again, shut down this centralized power. To start defunding Congress, for example, would be a great way to spark some change. That is, let's stop paying taxes. Stop paying taxes to the federal government. Stop funding the monster. If we do that, then they won't have any money to spend, and what will they do?
Well, they'll just print the money.
Well, okay. Yeah.
But no, I'm with you, though. I mean, ultimately what you're saying is withdraw your consent for this empire. What's the point of it? It's the national government of this country is bar none the greatest threat to life and liberty on this planet, and including ours here at home.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, I think they're, like North Korea.
Oh, come on.
They kind of have a rotten system over there. The Chinese round up dissidents and kill them. We're not there yet. But I think in terms of, think about it. Patriots, I think real patriots should be the ones to be most critical of their country. And what I find often is talking with especially people who've left the national security branches in disgust, like your colleague Philip Giraldi, they want the country to be so much better than it is. So I think we should think of it like that. I don't think that the national government is so much an incredible threat, but it could be so much better,
Yeah. Well, but then, like you say, one more red alert, and we're going to see them marching around like Italian fascism around here.
That's what a lot of sources have told me. But on the other hand, as you mentioned earlier, this could be an incredibly far-fetched and impossible scenario to actually implement on the ground. Maybe there are 320 million Americans, and how many guns are there? Aren't there like 600 million guns in the United States?
Yeah, something like that.